Hey guys, welcome back. And this is the second video of the CSS series. We'll be learning more CSS elements which can help you take your web page to a whole new other level just by styling it using CSS. So without any further ado, let's jump into the video and start learning CSS. Let's look at what's the main purpose of CSS. So CSS is like something which can add style to a web page, and it can add style to each and every tag or element in the web page, and it can have separate style properties for each of these elements. So some of the basic properties can be like size of the text, the style, the way the text is shown to you, the color of the text. Now we'll be just looking at some basic visual styling in CSS. So let's go ahead and let's see that. Out here in the CSS folder, I have two files called as HTML, index.html, and one other as style.css, the HTML file and the CSS file. To start off, we'll just go ahead and we'll give the basic body structure of HTML, and we'll title this page as lesson 2. For now, I'll go ahead and write some stuff inside the body so that we can style them later using the CSS. So first, to start off, we'll first link the style CSS file. So let's go ahead and link the style CSS file. To do that, as you can see here, I have used the link tag inside the head tag. So it's a child of the head tag, and it has a relation which says this is a style sheet and another href. Like the href used in A tags, you have a href here, which says where you should find the style sheet. This style sheet, it's in the same folder. That's why you have a dot and a slash. And then what's the style sheet called as style.css. So that's what basically it does. Let me do it again. You have dot slash which says it's in the same folder, and you go ahead and you write the CSS file's name. So style.css. Okay. Now once you save it, it links it to the style.css. So if ever you go and do some styling, write the CSS code as such or CSS declaration lines, you would get the result shown in the HTML file, therefore in the website that you're running, the live server. So first I'll start off with the font family. If you have used Microsoft Word or any of those text files, you would have seen you can change the font. Like for example, you can have sans serif, you can have Times New Roman, you can have various such font. So like that, I'm going to do it out here. First, let's grab the H1 out here, which we have the first H1, and we'll say H1 and we'll put it in braces. So H1 is the tag which we're going to access, and the parenthesis will say the declaration block. So in the declaration box, let's go ahead and write the declaration lines. So first you have the property and then the value. So for the property, we'll say this is font family. If you're using Emmet abbreviation in VS Code, these are some things which makes it easier for you to write, like auto completion kind of effect. So you have various suggestions given out here, and I'm just going to use the basic one which is called a sans serif. So this gives it a separate font family by itself. Now if you change it, you can see you have linked the CSS file to the HTML file. Therefore, this font family has taken effect. Like let me change this to, let's say, monospace. You save it, it has changed again. There is change in the font you can create out here. So that's for the H1. let's work font family for the H2. So you access the H2 using this, and then you write H2 and you give a font family for this too. So you say font family, and let me give it Times New Roman. Usually there's a way of writing it. Let's say a particular browser cannot access this particular font, like Times New Roman, let's say. If it cannot access the first font, it will go to the second font, which is Times. And if you cannot access that, it will go to serif. And serif and sans serif are something which is common for all the browsers. Now, if you save it, you can see it works with Times New Roman. And let me change this to, let's say, sans serif now. If you save it, you can see the change in the text. There's a font family has been changed. That's the font family. Now you have something called as a font size. Like for example, if you think the P tag is too small, what you do is you would go and zoom in a bit. So using Ctrl and plus, you would zoom in and you can read it. That makes it hard. You can't always zoom in. Like for example, if you're using a mobile device, a cell phone or something, you can't see it. So therefore you have something called as a font size. So let me access the P tag, and inside the paragraph tag, we'll write the font size and we'll increase the font size. I'll give it as 30 pixels. Once you increase it and you save it, you can see there is an increase in the font size. It has increased to 30 pixels. And the font size can be written in pixels. You can write it in EM, you can write it in REM. There are various other stuff, but mainly we are going to learn pixels. That's the major and widely used measurement term for web development. So that's the P tag, and you have a font size of 30 pixels. But let's say you want to increase, like for example, you want to give it boldness. That's called as font weight. So I'll go out here and I'll give it as a font weight. And font weight can also be numbers like 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900. 900 is the heaviest and 100 is the lightest. And also you can give it as text like bold, bolder, light, lighter, normal, inner. So I'm just going to give it as bold. So you increase the font weight. You can see, okay, the boldness has increased. Now, for example, it looks like it's written in an H1 or an H2. That's what the effect you can give using font weight as bold. Next, we are going to work with something called as text align. So this has various properties. So let me go ahead and do it. So text align, and you have various center for centering it to the page, end to the end of the box kind of effect, left to the left side of the browser, right to the right side of the browser. If you are working with the browser, or if you have a particular box and you're working with that, it goes to the left side of the box, it goes to the right side of the box. So since this is the heading, I want to keep it in the center. So we say text align to be center. And if you save it, you can see it has centered itself as a whole. You don't have it like earlier you had the sports sticking to the left side of the screen. You don't have it now. You have it in the center. And this you can see in Word or something. You use the text align, you put center for if you're writing the headings. And if you're writing your name, you put it in the left side. Like for example, let me go ahead and let me add a P tag here. And we'll call this as I love coding. Okay. And once you save it, there's a problem here. You have it exactly the same as this P tag, because both of them are paragraph tags and it's hard to distinguish between each of them. So for that, you have something called as an ID attribute. In HTML, we learned IDs. So like that, we'll be using it. So we say ID and we give it a particular ID. So we'll say author. This is an ID. So now let me go ahead and let me style the particular P tag which has an ID of author. So to access an ID, you use a hashtag and you say author. Okay, now there's the author. And let me put this, like for example, let me give it font weight of light so that you see the difference. Yeah, font weight of lighter. Okay, now you can see there's a difference. Both are P tags, no doubt about that. But because of the ID, I have been able to access only the element under the ID. So let me put this to the right side of the screen. So we'll say text align and we'll put this as right. Okay, you have this to the right side. Like even if you go full screen, you have only that thing to the right. This is working as normal, the P tag. So using IDs, you can like specifically target a particular element. That's what IDs can be used for. So I've gone ahead and downloaded an image called soccer and I've just put this image. So let me go ahead and let me add this image inside this image tag. So for that, you have something called as background image. So you go to the div, and we have given the div a class of image. So a class is similar to an ID, and an ID is like specific to this, but a class can be accessed again and again. So that's the difference. For ID you use hashtags. For class you do dot, and I've given it a dot image, and inside that image we give background image. And for background image you'll be using this image we have called soccer.jpg. And how you do that is you go to URL. So how you use that image is you give URL, and then in that image you can give soccer.jpg. You don't give a slash. So the thing is, you have this image only set to this whole tag. So let me like increase the height and width of it. So we go ahead and we say height to be like around 4. Let's see the image whole size actually. The image is set to 1500 and 1025. So we'll not put it at that range. We'll put it at like 500 pixels. So we have most of the image. Still, the image can be done better. So let's go ahead and let's work on the image a bit. So let's increase the height to be like 1000 pixels. So we have the whole image, but we have the image to be repeated, right? So let's not have the repetition. So we'll put it as background, and there's thing called background repeat. So that's for repeating, and we say no repeat. And once you save it, you don't have it as a repetition. So there's no repetition there. You have one image sitting there. Now let's work on this caption out here we have. So for the caption, what we do is we set a color and a background color for the caption. So let's go ahead and do that. We access the caption in specific because we have given a class of caption out there. So we say dot caption, and we give a background color of black and a color of white. Okay, now you can see you have the text set, but it's set to the whole width, right? Let's reduce the width a bit. So we'll say width to be like 200 pixels. The width is reduced, and let's increase it actually to 400 pixels. Width is good, and then we'll put the height to be around 200 pixels. Oh no, that's too much actually. Let's put 50 pixels. Yeah, this looks perfect. We have the height and we have the image. So now we have the text, we have the image, and we basically have a website actually. Now let's remove this font weight. We won't need a boldness to that. So we have it here. How the rise of soccer in the US is changing the face of youth sports. And then you have a subheading, and you have some text, and then it's written by I Love Coding. Actually, you can like add a dash or a hyphen here, which says that it's written. So hyphen, and then you have a caption. Now we have actually gone ahead and we have used CSS to style it. Okay, now we have a website. We don't have the font weight, we don't have boldness. We have added the hyphen. It looks pretty neat now. So that's it from me in this video. We have learned some CSS. So in the next video, we'll go ahead and we'll do some more styling to our web page, and finally we'll get a pretty decent web page which you can show off to your friends or anyone. You can say, okay, see, I can create a web page, I can create all that. So that's it from me in this video. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching.